All right, here we go. We are at AES and having fun, and AES is a wonderful show because you can just snag amazing people right off the floor and pull them over and force them to talk to you. So I've got this gentleman here. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi there, John Paterno.
John Paterno. And you, what are some of the things that you've done that you feel good about in this business?
Let's see. Most recently, probably the new Steve Porcaro record that I just did. But I've worked with Robbie Williams, Los Lobos, Suzanne Vega, Eros Ramazzotti, who's a big Italian pop artist.
Cool.
So,
and you started in the camp of some cool folks, right?
Mitchell Froome and Chad Blake. Yeah, when I first moved to LA.
Yeah. So not too shabby. So
Nope.
you got to learn from the guys who were doing all the things they weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah. On the record, they decided they weren't going to do it anymore. Yeah, it was perfect. Los Lobos Kiko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. So, recent projects, what's the cool thing that you're...
Well, Steve's thing
Steve
probably.
thing is the newest?
Yeah. And I have this interesting thing I'm working on right now with somebody. It's spoken word against the kind of like ambient music, and I'm composing in addition to mixing and everything. So
cool.
Yeah, it's been great.
Mix, compose, and producing as well? Or?
Yeah.
So you're like a man.
Co-producing it with the artist,
With
and we were going to work on a record together, but he decided. We both kind of decided separately and got together for a meeting, and he said, would you want to do something with these poems I've been doing? And I said, look, on the drive over, I was thinking the same exact thing. So we're doing it, and it's great.
Awesome.
Some of the pieces are like a minute long. Some of them are like 2.5 minutes long. Only 2 of them have like groove, drum machine kind of things. Everything else there are wind chimes that I recorded from a windstorm in the front of my house. Weird little Korg monotor synth things that, through a bunch of pedals, just creating sounds. And it's been great. It's been super fun.
Yeah, that's the creative thing. You don't get to do it all the time, so it's really nice when it comes up, right?
Totally.
Awesome. So I guess there's probably a reason why we invited you to sit under this logo.
I hope so.
And next to this logo, I'm very, very branded. But so you use Sound Toys plugins from time to time?
I use Sound Toys plugins on every mix I do. I think that's more than from time to time.
This is my mic drop moment from yesterday. Now it's today.
Oh, come on.
No. So every project.
Project, yeah, definitely. I use the Devil Lock Deluxe a ton on vocals mostly.
Which, oddly enough, is inspired by a piece of gear that was made famous by
Chad. But I don't ever use it. I use it on drums occasionally, but I really like it on vocal as a parallel chain. You just blend it up a little bit, and it's the only compressor that I've ever used where I've been happy there's the mix knob, so I can actually get a little bit of transient back into it. But everything else, I never understand blends and stuff like that.
Because it's got a lot of character.
It's got a ton of character. It's awesome.
Yeah. So cool.
So that I use a lot. Echo Boy I use a lot. 109 milliseconds as a vocal slap. For some reason, I don't know why 109, but it just ends up there.
That's your number. You own it.
Yeah. And what was weird is I mixed a Robin Ford record at one point a few years back, and he wanted 109 milliseconds of delay on his guitar. And it was what are the odds? It's a lot of numbers it could be, right? But he was just, and I'm like, really, 109? And it's what I'd been doing for the longest time too. So,
and then he walked through your door.
And then he walked through my door. Yeah.
The magic. It's unity.
Yeah.
So Echo Boy, you use
Echo Boy. Primal Tap.
You like Primal Tap?
I love Primal Tap.
Me too, but
because sometimes you just can't figure out what exactly it is, but it's doing something. It's the right tone, and it gets out of the way in the right way. Yeah. I used it a lot on the Steve Porcaro record, actually. Some of the longer delays, and probably on almost every background vocal track.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, I love that thing.
Yeah.
And then with the rack now, because you can combine a few things, so I've got this great preset that I use a lot, probably a little too much. That's Primal Tap and the micro pitch shift.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Two old classics from
Well, it just
from
makes
the day.
me feel like, yeah, when I first started working in studios, because
that
those
was the
things-
gear.
That was the gear.
That was
exactly.
the sound.
Yep.
Yeah. So cool.
But yeah, those are probably the go-tos. But I find use for
Yeah.
you know,
Decapitator.
Capitator, definitely. It's funny. That one is the one I use to scuff up drums a little bit more than than like my Chad lineage maybe would have
Right.
been. But I'm trying to think of the other stuff off the top of my head.
It's Filter Freak,
Filter Freak
Phase
is.
Mistress, Crystallizer,
Oh, I forgot about Pan Man.
Pan Man, of course.
That thing I use a ton as well. I love the fact that you can step it against the tempo of the tune.
Right.
Use it a ton. And
So you're doing those like hard steps, not the smooth.
well, sometimes it's smooth, but I like the fact that it'll happen rhythmically the whole time, and it'll be
Right.
consistent each time. Because a lot of times, with older stuff, it's like, especially if you're using analog gear, obviously it's on its own.
Right.
It's on its own wavelength.
Right.
So, but yeah, I use that a lot
That's
too.
cool. I was actually just kind of looking out here because Chris, the young man who finished off Pan and designed all that, he's here, so he would love to.
Oh,
but he's not
awesome.
here, so too bad.
All right. Well, we'll catch up with them
We'll
later.
let him watch the video. He'll learn
Yeah.
about it later. He'll
Yep.
like, oh,
Yep. And you know what I also use a lot? I use Radiator.
radio. That's
And I use it on percussion a lot. I use it on tambourines and shakers. And I turn off the noise. Well, sometimes having the noise in there is kind of cool. But I turn off the noise, and I usually give it a fair amount of gain. You can hear it kind of compress a little bit in that way that it does. And then the tone controls, for as simple as they are, even if you whack them up all the way, sometimes they do something really interesting. But on tambourines, like I said, tambourines and shakers, it's almost like a tape simulation, but it's not. It's its own little thing, and it puts its nice little space. You can hear the space, especially if it's been performed by a real person. You get a nice
technical
technical
difficulties.
pause.
We will be right back after these brief messages. Groovy. So we were talking about Radiator, and you're saying that the curves are really nice, and you can be really aggressive on the EQ.
Yeah.
You can be really aggressive with it, and it's funny because I was not familiar with FPC gear, and we found out in our research it was used heavily in Motown, and for me it's like bass and treble. And bass guitar, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful thing.
It's great. I've actually used it on bass
Yeah.
as well.
It's some kind of magic there, or maybe it's because our ears have been trained of listening to all the Motown records to go. That's what it's supposed to sound like.
It's magic. Admit it.
It is.
Come on.
Okay, yeah.
Where's Ken? It's magic.
Soundtoys plugins are magic. You heard it straight here from John Paterno. Cool. Well, we've talked plugins, we've talked gear, and we've talked your project. Any other things you want to add in there?
No, I don't
No.
think so,
We
man.
covered
I
it all?
think It's good to
We had
see you,
fun?
man.
It's good to see you.
Soundtoys- You
It's
guys
been a
have
long
always
time.
been
I'm doing
awesome.
this. Yeah.
And, I really appreciate you guys having me. It's great.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, this is John Paterno and Mitch Thomas from Soundtoys saying, check you out later.